Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's, it's an early edition, this week's Middle East update. Might be a little longer. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's deeply troubling. Let me step out of the way here again. As you know, there is a PDF that's available, and this will just be on our YouTube page as well. As I mentioned, there's a lot to cover this week. A lot of it is troubling, and I'm going to give you some thoughts and opinions. And I think it's important for you to listen, to read, and form your own opinion. Don't let the media shape your views in any way. So for me, in the mornings now, I live right across from the Spokane River, and I usually take a morning walk. And so as I went down by the river today, my thoughts towards the Middle East, specifically Israel, I have great concerns of what's taken place. I have an uneasiness in my gut. And I think part of the reason is because of the optics of what is taking place. As I look through biblical lenses, not rose-colored Trump administration lenses, but biblical lenses, I'm concerned that one day there will be a time that Israel will have to stand alone. And I'm worried that I'm starting to see a gap. As I look out today, I see our current administration here in the US as showing signs of wobbling a bit when it comes to our support of Israel. It shouldn't surprise us. Trump made it clear, America first. His priorities will be our economy. And so in his dealings with the Saudis, which we're seeing today, that's where he's at, and Qatar, I'm fearful that we're stepping away from standing with Israel. We know that the time will come. The Bible makes it clear that there will be a day that Israel has to stand alone. I just hope it's not my lifetime. But as I see what's transpiring today, a $400 million Air Force One gifted by Qatar. Do we trust Qatar? Should that gift be received? Are there strings attached? And then there's no discussion of normalization with Israel, with the Saudis right now. Everything seems to be business, business, business. And even with the recent release of Edon Alexander, it seems there's a tug of war of who gets the credit. The Trump administration, Weisskopf? Who's getting the credit for this? This is what I do know. The devil's doesn't have to be overly creative. He has 3 traps, and they've been efficient and effective for him throughout the ages. And those 3 traps have been Trump's Achilles heels. What are they? Money, power, sex. Money, sex, and power. So as I see all this taking place, I'm just going to ask you to pray. To pray for Israel, to stand with Israel. Specifically, to pray for the release of the captives, all of the captives, all of the hostages, dead and alive. To pray for the complete destruction and defeat of Hamas. And more importantly than those, to pray for all of Israel, that they would come to know Jesus, Yeshua, as their Messiah. But with all that being said, before we jump into news bites, one final thought. A bad day with Trump is far better than a good day with Kamala. I believe that. All right, let's take a look at our news bites for this week, and you'll see the concern. You'll see the reason for my concern of what's going on. An Israel official said that Hamas has agreed to release an Israeli American soldier held hostage for more than 18 months. And Hamas, the Israelis are saying they're doing this because of the IDF's expanding war in the Gaza. That's why Idan is actually released. Even in Israel, however, you have this tension, this tug of war of the left versus the right, and Lapid, the kind of the king of the left, basically has expressed, no, the whole reason for this release of the hostage, Eden Alexander, is because of the U.S., not Israeli diplomacy whatsoever. So all the credit should go over to this side. This is that tug of war. And then we look at the Trump being in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis want to lobby Trump to back a new Palestinian state, to end the Gaza war. And Netanyahu, on the other hand, is now vowing not to cave under U.S. pressure to end the Gaza war. Because for Bibi, the reason for this release is that they have their foot on the throat of their enemy and they need to finish the job. Now, Trump has expressed opposition to Israel's plans for this new operation in the Gaza Strip, which is just around the corner, Gideon's chariots. And so the two leaders seem to be sparring with one another, and apparently some frustration. The U.S. wants the return of the hostages, but according to the U.S., that would require the war to end, and Israel's not willing to end the war. And then even with this Eden Alexander, what I just read was that Trump had requested that he be flown to Qatar this week to meet with him and the Amir of Qatar, of the Gulf country, and to thank the president personally for his role in convincing Hamas to free him. Out of control. What I just heard today is that's not going to happen. But you can see, you can feel what's going on now. And so, this is an article that's called Preach Patience. Trump's recent moves in our region over the past few days have puzzled many Israelis. And again, this is by an Israeli. He says, I'm not worried at all. He isn't my president, and we're not America's 51st state. Trying to push us to end the war just for normalization, a deal with the Saudis, is short-sighted. Things take time in Gaza because we are doing our best to save as many of our hostages as possible. A U.S. president's timetable for this Middle East trip is to secure business deals with wealthy Muslim countries. We cannot rush into ending a war without ensuring that the enemy is completely defeated. Deal now, peace now, bring them home now. That reflects a Western obsession with instant gratification. It can't be done. And this Air Force One, a gold-plated, it's amazing to see. You think there's strings attached to that? And so this is another bad luck, in my opinion, for Washington and their freeing of Eden. And it wasn't through Jerusalem, in a sense. So will there be long-term damage that's going to happen because of this gap between the two? And so, again, this jumbo jet that I keep referring to, $400 million. What's Hamas get, by the way, for this release? But, strings attached for Qatar for this gift, But then this release, Hamas has released Eden with nothing in return. Will there be strings attached? Hamas is claiming that President Donald Trump now owes them one, whatever that might mean. And then we have the fake news, obviously, that comes in, which creates this, what I began with saying, you've got to search for the truth. You need to pray about this. You need to take a stand. But again, a few days ago, Jerusalem Post, I-24 News made the statement that Trump was about to recognize a Palestinian state. In fact, on Shabbat, non-Shabbat observer Israelis woke up on Saturday to the fake news report that reminds us of Winston Churchill's statement, his witty words when he said, got halfway around the world before the truth had a chance to put its pants on. So in a sense, it's now been retracted, but it was put out there. And it's still in the back of Israelis' my mind. Is Trump willing to recognize a Palestinian state at this particular time? Our good friend Amir, he writes, I want to be very clear. Donald Trump, even on a bad day, is 1,000 times better than Kamala on a good one. He goes on to say, he's made a few, in Amir's opinion, few poor decisions regarding foreign affairs stemming back from a lack of understanding of the Middle East, its culture. I hope someone soon will advise him to reassess his approach to Turkey and Iran, and especially Qatar. But he goes on to say, but for Israel, I trust in God's plan. I'm not worried at all. Israel will soon defeat Hamas. My Redeemer is not Trump. My Redeemer is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Stan Goodenough, somebody I follow on Telegram as well, gives this insight from Israelis, from the IDF, from the parents of fallen soldiers. He writes in his post, attempting to not harm the hostages. The way the IDF has worked, in our attempt not to harm the hostages, we've lost 3 times their number in combat soldiers in Gaza. Goes on to write, we cannot publicly care about the hostages because in so doing it allows our enemies to weaponize our humanity, our civility, and is preventing us from winning. The other option that we have is to die. How many of our soldiers' lives are you going to sacrifice to protect those who slaughtered babies? And how many is enough to sacrifice for each hostage when you know Hamas will never return them all alive, if not forced to do so, which will require that more of them will die. This is Solomon's sword in a sense. What choice do you have here? Israeli concerns. Trump is not visiting Israel. In a sense, he could. He's there. He's in Saudi Arabia. It seemed like it would be a good collective celebration with Trump and Bibi, with securing Alexander's release. But again, the word is that the Israelis were never even informed about the negotiations, that the United States negotiated directly with Hamas, and they kept Israel to the side. An ally, our only ally in the Middle East. And then you have another article, again, concerns about the Saudis, far right. Israel will not commit suicide for normalization with the Saudis. We don't believe that that the Saudis should have nuclear capabilities. We know what's coming down the road. We will not think even for a second about giving to the Saudis' demands for a pathway for a Palestinian state. It'll never happen, no way. A Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria would be a huge terrorist state. It would be Gaza multiplied by 20 in an area that geographically and topographically dominates all of Israel. The West Bank, no. Judea and Samaria. And then this interesting article about what's behind the ceasefire with the Houthis. An article from Israel, the U.S. failed to establish air supremacy over the Houthis. Indeed, the Houthis almost shot down an F-35, multiple F-16 jets, successfully shot down 7 American drones worth about $30 million. Again, this campaign of the first month cost the states about $1 billion, used up a lot of their precision munitions, which may be needed if they're pulled into this Taiwan Chinese thing. And finally, the campaign was marred by significant mishaps, such as 2 separate incidents of FA-18 Super Hornets falling off the Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier into the Red Sea, injuring 2 pilots and a flight deck crew member. There are many takeaways from this, but there's one that's most pertinent to Israel, and this is what worries me. This is what's bubbling up. Washington does not seem to be the reliable partner in the Middle East as it once was. A couple other things that you can take a look at just as slides. Again, make sure you grab the PDF PowerPoint. Want to remind you, if you're local, that there is a second night that it's added to Amir Safani's visit to us, July 2nd. All the information on our websites, that's where you can get the tickets for that. I know there's very few left. We sold the first night out. Second night's very close. So if you grab those tickets right away, I'll just leave it at that. And then finally, check out our next trip to Israel, the land, the people, the king, in the fall, October 30th through November 9th. I'll leave you with this. Time to know what you believe. Time to take a stand. Time to not be quiet. Time to be a watchman on the wall. God bless you. Shalom.